been here in San Diego since 2000, and most of how the last 15 years prior to 2009, how I made a living was through headhunting. How many of you guys know what a headhunter is? Now, interestingly enough is, believe it or not, I am and was a very introverted individual. Anybody believe that? Come on, I'm telling you the truth. I really am. I've learned how to, though, balance my introversion out with some extroversion, so it's become a useful tool. And as a result, I started, headhunting was one of those things where I jumped in the water, I had to learn how to do it. And I didn't realize it was going to teach me these amazing skills in terms of how to connect with people and build relationships. Some of the relationships I built in my own professional life were with companies like Microsoft. One of the local companies here used to be called IDEC Pharmaceuticals. Anybody know who they were? IDEC is one of our local success stories. There was a guy named Ron Taylor, venture capital guy, who has created a number of amazing companies here. But more importantly than that, as a venture capital funding person, he was an amazing soul. And I sense that there's some people who have great passion here, which I highly recommend. Stick to your passion. About 2009, I ended up doing a reevaluation of self. I kind of knew intuitively that I needed to change directions because I was working, doing the headhunting thing, and I had a company and people and so forth. I was making money, but at a certain juncture, when I realized that there was more to life than just bringing home a check and so forth, and I felt disconnected with my family and my wife, and I had to do a reevaluation. And so fortunately, I had enough common sense to go, okay, there's something weird going on in my brain and in my life, right? We're doing everything. And I went out and got certified in something called neuro-linguistic programming. Hence, okay. Now, I didn't do it because of Tony, but I actually got certified because I was asking really, really terrible questions of myself, right? I was like, in my marriage at the time, we were living on the hill overlooking the ocean, kids, all the toys and so forth, and I'm experiencing this deep unhappiness. And I was asking really bad questions. And so in the course of this certification process, I realized that I was asking bad questions, and I also realized that what was bothering me wasn't my external environment, it was what was going on internally. So I decided to kind of fold down all the business, the house and everything, and keep the family, let go of the stuff, which opened up a whole other thing. And that was kind of the incarnation of Dream Job University. One of the things I'm extremely passionate about, and I've always been passionate about, is taking ideas and bringing them to life. Now, that being said, I didn't always take ideas and bring them to life. I actually used to be pretty good at procrastinating. Anybody ever do that? So I was pretty good at it, actually. I took a snapshot at one juncture in my life, and I said, I have all these great ideas, and I get people excited about my ideas, but I have this path of talking about what I'm going to do. And when I took a snapshot of my own path, it kind of woke me up. I had to look in the mirror. So I changed how I was approaching life, and I decided to take my life a lot more serious. And I realized that we only have so much time on the planet and so forth, and if I don't do one thing, I'm going to get something done. So I committed to doing it. I started Dream Job University as a means of helping to reach out to individuals because I learned how to network, and I've done lots of amazing things as a result of networking, connecting. I've also created and invented things. I've actually created cartoon series and all kinds of weird stuff, and took them from idea, concept to fruition. And there's a process for doing it, but the common denominator with every single thing we do is there's one word. And if there was one thing that we all need to do in order to get our product from idea to the world, does anybody know what that would be? Any ideas? Suggestion? Marketing, that's one idea. Passion, that's a great idea. Actuate, that's a great idea. Plan well, okay, that's great. And those are all true, okay? The idea that I have that worked out for me was learning how to network, right? So if you have passion, a product, et cetera, if you don't meet the right people, a lot of times our ideas stay in the box, right? So meeting the right people, and interestingly enough, is oftentimes we think the right people means meeting people with money. How many of you guys want to meet people with money and help your ideas? All right, your hand didn't go up. You don't? I'm just joking. Oftentimes, it's really funny because I think that networking, which is what I'm going to show you guys a little bit about tonight, is really what it's all about. So having a plan, a very specific plan, and marketing, being able to have an idea that's already articulated into an idea, because when we go and we meet people who are able to help us to take our ideas and bring them to life, if you just have an idea that's not worked out and so forth, you're pretty much, sometimes it's really a waste of other people's time, right? So when we have passion, we're excited about things, if we've had the idea work out to where it's a presentable idea and it's marketable, a lot of times those people who really have the ability to help us to bring those ideas or to finance will actually take us serious. And so what I've actually done is Dream Job University is really all about learning how to take ideas and put them into a format to network and build relationships to meet people. Now, the first thing that happened for me after 2009 and this whole big change was I decided that I was going to stop just being a headhunter and making money because it wasn't fulfilling. And I shut down everything, and it was kind of painful and bumpy. But guess what? Having some passion coating on my butt made the bumps a little bit easier, right? It's like, oh, that's a bump, but I got some passion back there, so it's good. And the first thing I really wanted to do was to share some of the ideas and things that I had amassed over the years. And so I wrote my first book called How to Find Your Dream Job Even in a Recession. And this book actually is a process. It was a process of kind of going into how I felt and listening to language patterns, etc. So it's not just a book about finding a job. It's really a book about the internal dialogue that we have and how we look at life and how to focus on the things. No matter what's going on around you, things could appear to be falling apart. But if you focus on where you're going and keep that into fruition and vision, you'll always get there, right? And I'm not saying carelessly, but there's a way to do it. And after that book, it wasn't enough for me to just do a book because I had to build an online system that had to do with videos. And so I built my first online system. And it was right as the internet was getting broadband. So, looking at the Tony Robbins model, Tony, anybody know who Tony Robbins is? So Tony actually flew around, and he still flies around a lot doing hotel rooms and several hundred dates a year. And I thought that'd be fun at a while, but what I realized that I don't want to do 300 dates a year in hotel rooms. And so I actually started looking at the internet more seriously, and as we've changed, our world has changed so much. As a matter of fact, I have a new cool device called the Samsung Galaxy S3. Anybody know what these things are? Right? iPhone, smartphones, etc. These are like the coolest toys ever. But broadband has come into our own hand. We can actually broadcast video. I look at Netflix on this thing when I'm laying in bed with my, at night times, like, hey. And so our world has changed. So this is a broadcast mechanism in order to reach people, broadcast to people. So, and it's a two-way machine. I do a lot of videos with YouTube and all kinds of things. But most importantly is I've been able to create a system where I'm able to leverage it and give people access to my ideas online. This is the book that I did last year called Leveraging LinkedIn. And I'm going to invite all you guys to go to dreamjobuniversity.com and do the free first 11 videos of the course, which I'll talk about why that's important. But taking ideas, bringing them to life is where I've been committed to. Currently working with a few large publishers, kicking out lots of ideas. It takes lots of time and discipline and energy. But the outcome is that I get to share my passion and my invention with people, and that is what I aspire to do. So number one, stick to your passion, stick to your dreams. In my LinkedIn question, a lot of you guys actually have profiles. How many of you guys actually use LinkedIn at least once a month? Okay. How about once a week? Once a day? See, I already know you are. Okay. How many of you guys have the LinkedIn phone app on your phone? Okay. How many of you have at least 500 connections? 100 connections? Okay. How many of you actually know how to leverage LinkedIn and really use the tool to build relationships into the areas where your expertise lies? Okay. Now, in my last 10 minutes, instead of just talking, because what I've actually realized is that LinkedIn's grown immensely. 200 million people, amazing network, way better than Facebook. Anybody on Facebook at all? Anybody use Facebook to make money? You could, because you can, right? I mean, there's some stuff there. Yeah, you can. LinkedIn, though, however, is a different tool. They actually started LinkedIn for 3 reasons. The founders of LinkedIn actually had 3 very specific reasons. Number one, they sucked at marketing themselves, right? So I thought that was like a pretty funny story. They were like these tech guys, and they sucked at marketing themselves. So they wanted to come up with a format that allowed them to kind of sort of have a template way of presenting themselves to market. And then number two, they wanted to have a phone book or a directory of some sort that updated itself, right? So if your friends change, you don't know how to find them, right? Anybody ever use a Rolodex ever? Now that's an old word, and I'm old enough to use a Rolodex, but I used to mark off names and numbers on my Rolodex, right? And at a certain juncture, the Rolodex gets kind of, it's like, okay, I don't know where to find these people. And finally, what they wanted to do was have just a template-based system that made it super, super easy to interact with. And hence, they started off with some new incarnations of LinkedIn, which they had various names, and pretty soon it became LinkedIn. There's over 200 million people on this platform right now, and in over 200 countries. You can reach pretty much anybody in this platform, opted in, who's willing to do business with you if you do it the right way. Now, I'm going to show you something. Considering that this is an inventors forum, and I imagine in reality you guys are artists and creative people and entrepreneurs and startup companies, and it looks like there's some successful transactions happening here, somebody selling stuff, and there's things happening. Once again, it's all about meeting the right people no matter who those people are. So what I figured I'd do is just do a couple simple things. Number one, this is my profile. And profiles are actually extremely important. There's two ways to use LinkedIn. Number one, passively. Passive approach is if you optimize your profile and have the right keywords in, people find you. Every single day there's somebody looking for something that we have. The real challenge with 200 million people is they don't know how to find us unless we help them to find us, so keywords are extremely important. Second way to use LinkedIn is the proactive way, where we actually go out and literally isolate people that we want to find and build relationships with, which is the power of what this tool is. Once again, someone said something about inventors. So in this category of people, I imagine one of the groups of people, there's a lot of people who can actually help to fund ideas. I actually currently am working on the next incarnation of my Dream Job University. And I've actually been building a relationship with a guy who is going to be funding part of my venture as well. So I'm intimately involved, and I know a little bit more about this process because I've had to live in it, right? But the real important part of this is I've had to learn how to build relationships in order to get people to trust, because in order for me to ask someone for a check for $1,000 right off the cuff, you know, most people would be like, I don't really know you. Why would I give you $1,000, right? And most of us need more than $1,000 in order to make something happen. So if I said, hey, would you be interested in investing in my idea? It's only going to be $500,000, right? But we don't have any connectivity. You don't know me. I may have a good business plan, but there's no history. Oftentimes, if you've taken the time to learn how to build a relationship with key people in your target environments and build some traction, get to know who they are, you'll have a better time going through the process of developing relationships like what I see going on here. So relationships are extremely key. The real question is how do you find the people in order to key in on it? I'm going to do a very simple search using what's called the people search. It's the advanced people search on LinkedIn. And all I did was when you log into LinkedIn, you end up at your home page. This is typically where you end up at. And up in the right corner, it's called the advanced people, or the advanced tab. This place right here is just your search box, and I'm actually going to use a simple idea like angel investor. Anybody ever do business with angel investors? Okay. Now, LinkedIn gives me a lot of parameters to choose in terms of making a decision. Keywords are critical here because you can use any keyword. I'm just using this as an idea. In addition to that, I'm going to use everybody I can, first, second, and third degree, as well as groups. Everybody know that LinkedIn's based on 3 degrees of separation? Okay, so, and just in a general search here, I'm also going to narrow it down to my postal code. I'm in Carlsbad, so I want to try to meet people within about, let's say, I'm going to expand it to about 100 miles, right? So LinkedIn gives you a chance to narrow down your parameters to within 10 miles of wherever the postal code is. You can literally say, I'm going to do business in New York, narrow it down within a zip code in New York and search people within those parameters. Now, in this search, I came up with 791 results of people who have the word angel investors in it. The very first person here, his name is Jason Calcanis. Jason's an actual interesting character because he's a real investor dude. He's done some pretty big transactions. I think he's the founder of Launch. I think he was over at Yahoo for a while as CEO, interim CEO, et cetera. So one of the challenges with big databases is the real question is if they have the word angel investor, are they really an angel investor? Okay. Jason is, as well as a lot of these people. But more importantly, what LinkedIn helps you to do is, number one, have a profile of the people you're looking at. Jason's done a lot of stuff. If you go to his website, he actually gives his email address and his cell phone number for people that are interested in connecting with him. Now, because he's so popular and he's so available, he's got a process for screening through people, which is why your plan has to be in place, which is why your marketing has to be in place, and which is why before you reach out to someone like this, you have to really have your story in order and have someone help you tell your story, because if you don't have your story in order when you reach out to these kind of people, they're not going to, they have enough people. You think they're going to take time with you? It'll probably be harder. So, once again, 791 people. He's got a lot of resources here. There's a lot of really good things about this guy. There's a couple of things that I'd like to bring to your focus, though, is in your researching of a person like this, let's say, hey, Jason's in my sweet spot. Now, I can do keywords that say angel investor or investor and solar. I think I heard somebody talking about solar, right? I can use keywords that actually narrow it down into baby products or household products, etc., and narrow it down into groups of people that are doing work in those environments. That's what I encourage you to do. Oftentimes when people use things like LinkedIn, they do a big blast and they go, hey, this guy's an angel investor. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he's interested in investing in what I have, or if she's invested in what I have. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're interested in your technology or not, right? A lot of people have very specific sweet spots that they spend time in. So I highly recommend when you do something as simple as this, that you really take time to reach out to people that are in your sweet spot. I actually recently have been working with a guy who's CEO of a game company that does games for Facebook and mobile, and he's been doing a lot of investment work as well. Interestingly enough, is some of the investors that we found to bring to the table are other CEOs that are at successful game companies. Zynga is a game company that has owned Facebook for a long time. Their one game, the poker game, I think does like $40 million a month, right? Somebody came up with a poker game where you use fake money, you use real money to buy fake money to play their poker game, right? What a great idea. You don't make any money from it, you make credits from it. But in the process of raising money, finding your sweet spot and networking with people that are literally in your industry is a better way to go, right? I truly believe that our network should be actually homegrown and they should be very specific. They're not very broad. Now, that brings about another interesting point. LinkedIn also has something called groups. Anybody in any LinkedIn groups at all? Okay, a few people. Now, let's see if Jason's in any groups. Everyone can join a group or start a group. Jason's in a few groups here. Now, part of my research says that a person like Jason is probably going to be in a couple of groups that he's chosen that are pretty good groups to be in, okay? This guy is like he's a very successful player in the game. So I'm going to look at his profile as I'm researching the people that I'm looking at, and I'm going to see what groups they're playing around in. This guy's in a group, the Angel Investor Network. I'm already a member of that network. Did you guys know that LinkedIn has Angel Investor networking groups? Okay. You have way too many connections. You know way too much already. So, interestingly enough, is LinkedIn has hundreds of thousands of groups of every sort. Manufacturing groups, groups in China that manufacture, or people that want to do business to manufacture in China in order to get things over here cheaper. They all exist, right? The real challenge, once again, is unless we know this, we don't know where to go. So there's a lot of amazing things that LinkedIn has actually done to make it easier. Their platform, though, however, is so big that most people don't understand how to operate inside of it. Now, Jason's in the Angel Investment Network, and interestingly enough, is in this group there are, there's over, what did I say? How many? There's 1,300 members in it. It's a fairly small group. There are some groups of different types with, a couple of 100,000 members. This is a very small group. They allow different people in. I would highly recommend that you join a group like this and follow the discussions, right? See what people are saying. This week's top influencers are the people who've posted the most discussions, who've had the most activity. When I get into a group for the first time, I'm very interested in not going out there talking about what it is that I think I know. I'm extremely interested in hearing what people are saying in the group, right? Paying attention. I'm listening. I'm listening. Because when Jason posts something, I want to hear what he has to say. Or any of the other people. I also am going to want to see who Jason may be contact or communicating with in that group. But I'm going to want to pay attention because they're not just talking about, hey, I have a great idea, can somebody finance me? Because if you join a group like that, they'll most likely kick you out of the group, right? So anybody can go in there and go, hey, I'm going to post a discussion. It's like a mini blog. Need money, have great idea, right? It's like, if you do that too many times, they'll oust you out of the group. You don't want to do that. And as a matter of fact, that's what I call a taker. There's a lot of takers in the world where it's like, hey, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do for me? Reality, it's easier to go through life not like this. What can you do for me? What can you do for me? But like this. I have an idea. Love to talk with you about it. I'm very open to networking. As a matter of fact, is there any way I can help you, right? It's a better way to go through life. It's a different energy. And that's what I teach job seekers as well. It's the same energy. At the end of every transaction, it's all about that. So joining a group, listening to the conversation, and then liking a conversation. You can click a like button to a conversation, or you can post a discussion if you have something relevant that you think you want to say. When you're building relationships with people in a community that you want to do business with, because an investment transaction is it's a relationship, right? So there's a money transaction, but hopefully you have a long-lasting relationship. Hopefully you can actually share, stories and whatever you do over the course of time and talk about other things. And so as you're developing these relationships in these groups, what you want to do is you want to be an expert in whatever you're developing. You want to say things that are relevant to the group and intelligent to the group. The more you're able to do that, the more that the Jasons in this group will see you, right? And if they're good discussions, Jason's going to see it because every time somebody posts a discussion, it goes out to the entire group. Now there's another way. Some people would go, oh my God, Jason's in this group. I'm going to email him right away, right? Yeah, don't do that. Take your time. Take your time and learn what the behaviors of the group are. Figure out who the players are. And then, when you're ready, the LinkedIn groups give you the ability to go to the member directory. And in the member directory, you can actually do a member search. And let's see if Jason, anybody with the first name Jason, because I can't remember how to spell his last name. So Jason is right here. I can actually send Jason a message directly because he hasn't blocked that feature. That means that Jason is open to using LinkedIn as a platform to talk to people and to do business with people. I guarantee you he's bombarded with people trying to do business. So I don't recommend you go out right away and do that. I recommend you research him. Go to his website, listen to some of his blogs, his YouTube videos, do some research on him before you approach him, and then figure out what his language is in order to learn how to talk his language. It's a better way to do it. Jason's just one example. I do the same thing with every single person that I would attempt to establish a relationship with if it's about investment. Final question I want to ask you guys, which is a very important question, is there's another guy named Paul Graham. Anybody familiar with Paul Graham? Okay. Another important character. Paul actually, Y Combinator, he was one of the guys who are at Yahoo, right? Y Combinator, they actually invest in ideas all along. You fill out one of their forms, and they actually invest in ideas. They take you through a screening process, and if they like you, they put you into their camp. They funded over, 450 startups so far, including Dropbox, whatever, and Reddit, et cetera, et cetera. These people do this for a living. Now, once again, it's more of a cookie-cutter process, but that's what they're doing. They're funding ideas. He's also a LinkedIn player and lots of other things. There's a lot of people out there playing in this game, and you have access to them. But, once again, find out what their conversation is. Find out how they transact business, because everyone's always asking them for stuff. And they do give things, but they have a process for doing it. Important thing that I'd like to tell you about Paul, though, is that on his paulgraham.com, which you guys should all go there, he's got this really cool, these are all amazing resources. He's got this thing he does. He does a lot of blogging and essays. Some of his essays, which from an entrepreneurial perspective, he's got some really cool stuff talking about how to be an entrepreneur or the new land of funding and how things have changed. So take a look at some of his essays, see what he's doing before you approach people like that. Okay, make sense? Last final question for you before I sign off here is crowdfunding. Anybody ever hear of Kickstarter? Okay. Has anybody tried any crowdfunding themselves? Has it worked? Okay, so there's a trick to it, and I don't have time to get into it, but what I would like to say is there's a lot of ways to raise capital. It's not just by going to angel investors or venture capital people. Venture capital people are actually, a little bit harder deal. But there's a lot of ways to raise money through crowdfunding and other resources where it's really about connecting with people, building relationships, and when you have an actual real connection, we're willing more to support each other. If you're not a friend, you're just another vendor. So my real idea is the more friendships we build through social media, through these platforms, just like you guys are doing in here. How many of you guys would give one of your fellow members at least $10 to help their idea along if they had a platform for doing it? Exactly, right. LinkedIn's all about that. That's what this is all about. So that's why the networking in an intelligent way is really what it's all about. DreamJobUniversity.com, there's a free LinkedIn profile overhaul. Before you get on LinkedIn and start doing a lot of activity, make sure your profile and how you look is in order. Does that make sense? Thank you.